I'm going to record this session just so we can, I'll post it for anybody that might be interested after the fact. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started. So Josine had asked me to put together a little workshop or clinic around tanking. I really do this at her request because she's kind of got her finger on the pulse of some of the newer members in the guild, newer players. She kind of heads that community up within this guild. And periodically I do some things like this around tanking. And we also have some very experienced people that do it for kind of those that are interested in healing. Excuse me. Although I say up front, although I do a fair share of tanking, and actually kind of cut my teeth as a tank as I was leveling up and getting experience in the game. Have tanked, all of the vet trials and several of the hard modes. Although I don't consider myself, as I said, a tank main. I kind of heal and I DPS, but I really enjoy DPS more. But I am somewhat knowledgeable around tanking. Now, having said that, who is this for? So just to be clear, if you are super experienced around tanking, you're probably not going to get too much out of this. This is really geared towards those that are either newer players, or maybe you do have quite a bit of experience in ESO, but not so much in tanking, but you're kind of interested in it. Or maybe you do quite a bit of dungeon tanking, but have not really spent a lot of time doing vet trials, or maybe you're even an intermediate vet trial where you do a lot of tanking in vet trials, but maybe still have some questions of, am I doing things right? Could I be doing something better? That sort of thing. So that's kind of the spectrum of players that really this is targeted for. So just to set expectations. Okay, so why don't we move on? What I really wanted to spend most of the time is kind of leaving it open to you guys to kind of bring up the topics of conversation, and we can kind of drill down on some of those areas of interest. So what are the hallmarks of successful tanking? How do you know if you're doing it right? And I think it's pretty evident. Probably one of the reasons, I wouldn't say it's the reason, but one of the reasons that some people shy away from tanking, especially me when I was learning to tank vet trials, was you're kind of on a stage. If you die and things fall apart pretty quickly, it's really on your shoulders, and it's pretty apparent if you mess up. And a lot of people don't like that pressure. They don't like being in the spotlight like that. Likewise, you're not going to get a lot of thanks if you do a really good job. It's just kind of expected. Whereas if, let's say you're a healer, or even more so a DPS, if you mess up, it's probably going to go unnoticed because there's a lot of other people that are covering for you. Now, kind of the basics, what I call the mastering the basics, it's sort of given that if you're going to be successful in tanking, number one, you need to identify what needs to be taunted quickly. You're going to grab taunt, crowd control, and we can talk more about crowd control and what that is. And then obviously don't die. That's probably, I should probably put that number one on the list. Yes. It's not good when the tank dies because your team is counting on you to hold the big stuff that are going to kill your teammates. Secondarily, kind of the second section is tanks are really looked to, aside from the trial leader, to really understand the fight. And what I mean by that is for every boss fight, every ad pull. Oh, by the way, welcome Jack Sue. I'm streaming, so if you want to join the stream, you can follow along. is the fight sequence. So what I mean by that is, like, where's the boss? When do ads spawn? And if so, when? Where do they spawn? Understanding the mechanics of the fight. Some fights do have specific mechanics, or some trials have mechanics. You'll need to know what you should do as a tank to handle them. A lot of it is positioning and placement. Like, where is the fight going to take place? And that's probably the number one thing that tank controls, is sort of the pacing and the placement of the fight. So, where are you positioning the boss? Are you pulling ads in, or are you just going to kind of taunt them in? Do you need to stack stuff and work with your off tank to stack stuff so things can die more quickly? So that's a really important concept, particularly as you kind of graduate from intermediate to more of an advanced tank. And then lastly, but equally important, is buff and debuff uptime. So there's several things that supports, particularly tanks, are looked to provide to their team in terms of buffs and debuffs. Most important is penetration or armor shred. So everything in the game has 18,200 of armor. If there is no armor shred or penetration at all, that provides them a 50% damage mitigation to all damage that hits them. Only 50% of your damage is getting through. To the extent that you can shred or get rid of that armor value by providing pen to your team, it allows more damage to get through, so things can die quicker. So, and then there's other debuffs. We can talk more about that later if you have questions on that. So I'll just pause there. Any questions, anything anybody wants to add to that? Okay. So this is where you guys start talking, and I'm going to start listening. Let's talk about specific trials. Because what I have prepared is I've actually have some video clips where we can highlight and show you a few things, just some examples, and we can kind of talk through those. But are there any particular trials that you're interested in tanking, or maybe have tanked, where you get a question as to, what do I do? Where do I hold stuff? Mechanics, that sort of thing. And Jack, Sue, and Luna, you're on mute, by the way, in case you're trying to talk. Let me ask the question a different way. Is there a trial that you guys have tanked in the past, or maybe not even tanked, but have been in, that you felt was particularly difficult, particularly for a tank role? And if so, which trial was that?
Halls of Fabrication.
Halls of Fabrication. Okay. Yeah, you had to name the one trial I don't have a lot of video for.
Okay. So ignore
That's
it.
pretty true. That's pretty true. This trial is a lot of information, and to be honest, in quite a lot of parts of House of Fabrication, mechanics that are similar to other trials, I found that to be just a little harder in House of Fabrication. Like the tank swap is harder than the tank swap on VDSR, for example, and just a lot of placing ads and stuff. That's a lot of things there. It's a big trial.
Yeah, it depends on the team. So a lot of times, in terms of what strategies do you use in terms of placement and how you're going to go through the fight as a team, will be one of the main drivers of that decision. Is how good is the team DPS? How fast can you burn through stuff? So if you have sort of beginner to intermediate level of damage, you're going to typically go through the trial in sort of what I call the classic form. You're not going to do skips. You're not going to do speed strats. You're going to basically play to the mechanics that are in the dungeon, or excuse me, the trial. And a good example of that is triplets on Hoff. So, or even on the second boss, where you have the portals and the 4 people go upstairs. That one, those 2 fights in particular, if you have really good DPS, you can pretty much skip the mechanics and just go straight for the kill. So I've been on teams when we did our TikTok Tormentor, we had enough DPS where we didn't send anybody up in portal on the second boss. We just pretty much just killed the boss outright before the mechanics triggered. And same thing on triplets. We didn't bring them together and pull them apart. There was some tank swapping, but we basically stacked everything all together and we just burned everything down really fast. So a lot of it will depend on kind of the team. I think as far as tanking VHOF, I think the thing I felt was or could be challenging to a newer tank on second boss and VHOF is, we always called it the tank puzzle, but that's when you have the 4 sentinels and they're facing each other, and then you have to spin around and block the one. If you do the wrong one, then it's a one-shot to the tank. And so that can be a little bit tricky to learn, but that's just practice and being able to react quickly.
Yeah, another fight that I would like to highlight as a tank, speaking about it, is the Reef Guardian on Dreadsail's Reef. I'm in a prog, in the hard mode prog. We're doing Reef Guardians, and the strategy is just to do the perma magma shell elfbane stuff. But what I wonder is, even in regular vet and so, what would be the optimal way of handling that?
On Reef,
because I see a lot.
Reef Guardian?
Yeah, Reef Guardians.
So,
I see a lot of different strategies, but
there's many.
Feels a little inconsistent.
Yeah, generally I see 2. In fact, I've got an example of that, so why don't I bring that up? Just a moment. Reef Guardian, here we go. Show me, is this showing? Have you seen the video? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm just going to slow this down a bit. So here, we're starting the pull, and the main tank has, this main Reef Guardian. Now, this is sort of what I call the safe strat. This is a very, very safe newbie tank, or, somebody may not have a lot of experience in this. But once the new one spawns, you'll see the main tank keep this Reef Guardian there. Here, let's speed this up. Okay, there's that medium one spawn. Now the off tank is taking it and it's going to separate it out. Now the reason why is when you stack everything together, if you burn everything down, it puts a little more risk on the tanks because they spew the acid reflux on you. And it gives you more room to move around. So this strategy, again, the safe strat, is you separate them. And the main thing to note here as they're doing acid reflux is, I'm going to pause this. Okay, you can see during acid reflux, this is just like the twins on DSR. You see those little circles?
Yep.
Those circles come out about every 1.5 to 2 seconds while it's doing acid reflux. So you can stand in acid reflux as long as you want, as long as you're not standing in one of those puddles, one of those circles. So when you are when you are getting hit with acid reflux, what you want to do is keep blocking and healing, but step out of the circles as they're getting dropped. And you're controlling where they drop. So wherever you go, those circles are going to drop underneath of you. So that's why you don't just want to stand in one place. You want to keep moving around. And that's why separating out away from the other tank gives you plenty of room to drop your circles. And then you can see the team behind the boss. They've got plenty of room back there to move around. Okay, so now see those circles are all dropped. And now I can just stand in place and continue to tank. And then the team, and the main thing, another important concept that tanks need to understand is anytime you move something that the team's trying to kill, that's a DPS loss. So to the extent that you can keep things held still, it allows the team to just stand there and parse. Okay, so a new one spawned, and usually about 10 seconds after it spawns, it'll start spewing poison. Now that middle one just ran off, and you can see it's time to cleanse. So a lot of the team is going off to cleanse over on poison side. And the soft tank is, okay, so all the farm animals died. Now what the main tank is doing at this time, he's just hanging out with that other reef guardian over there on the other side. He's just standing over there chilling. Okay, so again, I'm getting hit, and you'll see that I basically am dropping circles. So I drop that one. I drop another circle. And I just keep moving. Okay. And I have to cleanse too, so I'm going to run over quickly to poison side and cleanse. And then I come right back. Okay, so it's pretty much rinse, repeat. So once all that one dies, we come back to, eventually the medium one will come back, but it's kind of a rinse, repeat. The only time we get back together with the main tank is when all these other reef guardians are dead, and there'll be an extra one that splits off. Now, the other strat that is quite common, which I don't know if I've got an example of that, is for the tanks to basically tank together side by side. In that strat, you basically, or whenever the poison gets spewed, it's the acid reflux, you can stop it by having the other tank grab taunt, and it will stop that mechanic immediately. And it works pretty well. The only thing is, because you're together, there's a lot fewer places to stand. So you have to be kind of precise in terms of where you're standing. And there's oftentimes it's kind of difficult to find a good place to stand when there's acid all over the place. The other thing I think can make it difficult is if the team gets too close to the poison area, poison will start to get thrown over that boundary onto the team. So it makes it even kind of a worse situation, because now, in order for the tanks to stay alive, they may have to spin and swivel those bosses. And there's a chance that the team can get cleaved with some of that. Or there'll be poison circles on the ground as well. Okay, questions, comments?
That makes sense.
Yep, all good.
Other trials, other fights?
Cloud Rest +3.
Cloud Rest, I don't have a +3, but I do have a +1. They're all the same. The only difference between a +1, +2, +3 is the extra mechanics. So, are you interested in knowing about the portal tank role?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about that? So, portal tanking is honestly kind of boring. But you basically, here, why don't I'll just go change this speed. You're basically swapping between one portal tank and the other. They are both doing exactly the same thing. So when one is with Zamaja up top, when the portal opens, one portal tank would go down in portal and do their portal tanking down in portal. And then when they come back up, after they kill the monstrosity, they switch. So the main thing, particularly on Cloud Rest and most other trials in general, is for the tanks to have good communication. So they're very clear and concise around who's doing what and who's got what. It can be very bad for the team if there's confusion between the tanks around who's going to taunt what and where things need to be placed. So communication is really important. Okay, so the portal opened, and you can see, I'm just going to pause right here. So when this portal tank goes down, you can see how they're oriented. They're oriented facing north. So if you look at the mini map on the top right, going north or facing the north direction when you go into portal is very important for the portal tank, because that is where Zamaja is going to be. So if you go north and you go in, the very first thing you're going to see is Zamaja, which is what you want, because then you can immediately taunt it. And as soon as you get your taunt, you can communicate upstairs that the portal is safe. So there's the taunt. And then I'm spinning around. The reason why the off tank, or if you're in portal tank and you're downstairs in the portal, you want to look into the center of the room. So you can see when it's going to fill up and you need to find a jump spot. And also important is you can see what Zamaja, you need to watch what the boss is doing. You can see Zamaja, this little orb that's forming, it's going to hit you with Nocturnal's Favor, which is a really pretty heavy duty attack. And so this gives you a chance, if you're a DK, to put up your wing shield, which absorbs quite a bit of the damage. Okay, so see my health barely moved. So I'm just keeping up my wing shield. Okay, so it's going to move. So now the other thing, by facing into the center, you can see where Zamaja is going, so you can immediately get over there. And again, I'm going to spin around, face into the middle. And, okay, wing shields, block. Okay, see how the health barely moved. Now, okay, you can see also that it's starting to fill up. So this visually tells me, okay, I need to start looking for a jump spot to get up top. So I'm scanning, there's one right over there, so I'm quickly running. Okay, and as soon as it blows up, the main thing you want to do is look and see if there's a cone. The worst thing to do is jump down and you jump right into a pizza slice and you get ported upstairs. So that's another tip, is when you're up there, scan for any pizza slice down there. You don't want to jump into it. Okay, now the thing I'm not doing, because it's really not necessary for a +1, is the portal tank, particularly if it's a +3. If you're doing a +3, they should ideally be Ella draining the orbs, because it helps provide penetration on the orbs so they can be killed much more quickly. It's not a big deal on a +1 because there's fewer crystals to kill.
Okay.
But one other thing that could be done that would be helpful as the portal tank is the crystals, when you're down there between blocking and healing yourself, is just do one Ella drain on each crystal that you can get to. Yep. Okay, here's Nocturnal's Favor again. Block. And it looks like they're almost done. They're just running the orbs right now, so they're almost done down here. See, I'm almost out of mag too. Okay. Okay, so we're done with portal. Now, what this is important here because generally the tank coming out of portal will grab monstrosity if they can, unless there's a big death situation to deal with. At that point, the off tank could be helping to res, but generally, and you would grab, either between you and the mini tank. Some of you deal with the monstrosity, but the tanks, one of them could help res, keep the team up. But so now that we're up, the team's going to deal with the monstrosity, and at that point, the portal tank needs to communicate with the other tank that's currently up top with the boss when they're going to grab Zamaja. A good time to do that is either right after the tank has darkness, so he can kite the darkness circle away, and then the tank that was in portal can quickly grab Zamaja, or you could tell the portal tank, hey, I'm going to grab Zamaja on next port. So as soon as the Zamaja teleports, you'll see that I go ahead and grab the main boss. Okay, so now I'm on Zamaja, and the other portal tank is going to go down in portals. Okay, so that's pretty much it. At this point, it's kind of rinse and repeat. Probably the only semi-challenging thing here is when darkness fires from Zamaja. You have to not only block the little orb heavy hit, but you have to keep moving around. You don't want to let that darkness circle touch you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll pause there. Any other questions on portal tanking?
Nope, that answered all my questions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have one on Rock Grove, hard mode Oaks.
Okay.
Healing. I'm not sure if you can talk about the Kite Healer, but that whole scenario, yeah.
Let's see. I have mostly tanking or videos from a tank perspective.
That's fine.
But I could. Let me see if I can find something. We'll just go ahead and pull up. This is not hard mode, but the mechanics are very similar with respect to. Are you talking about the one that's kiting the charges?
Yeah, because I found myself kiting, and the moment I got poison and went to cleanse is the moment the blitz occurred too. And in hard mode, it's much harder to keep the poison on yourself. So I didn't know what timing would be for something like that. Now the tank, I have to say the tank admitted that he didn't position the boss correctly, but still,
so Let me just, if I can get the right angle on the camera here. So what you want to do is you want to actually stand pretty closer than you think. So see where that healer is right now? That's way too far away. You almost want to be in the intersection of the two. See the kind of the cross of these roads in the room. You almost want to be at that intersection.
Right.
Yeah, about where that altar is at. So that that's where ideally you should be standing. So you're close enough to cast some heals in the group, and you also want to have a speed boost. Anything you've got, I would say celerity and something else. I'm going to give you major expedition, but as soon as you get the sludge, you immediately want to sprint over and cleanse on the pool to the right side of the door.
And see, they had me cleansing on the one across, like to the right of this group. Like when you walk into that arena on the left-hand side, not that far back one that you're pointing at.
Okay.
And I don't feel that was totally correct, but I did what they asked.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah.
Yeah, because that's, see where the healer went. They
Right.
cleansed immediately, and then they immediately come back, because what happens is the charge happens right after that. See how
Right.
fast that was? That's
Exactly.
typically what I would expect to see, but
But they said that the frogs pop out of whatever pond we cleanse from, so they only wanted 2 ponds being cleansed. And that was why so I'm just wanting to see other perspectives, so that's good.
okay. Yeah. So again, this is an off-tank perspective, but the main thing with this fight is you can see where I think this is pretty relatively good placement, because you got the main tank has the boss on the opposite side of the group. So the group's standing, they're fighting this Havercell, this mini boss, and the main boss is directly behind them. So that way and then if you're the main tank on this, the main thing to watch out for is the big flame circle. You cannot stand in it very long without dying. So it's keeping that boss taunted and then having it drop its circle in a place where you can still keep the boss positioned in that same place, but you may need to swivel around that flame circle in order to find a good place to stand. But the other main thing with off-tanking this fight is, and this is primarily on the off-tank, is chaining the frogs in. So even while we're fighting this guy, you should be looking for every chance you have to target a frog and chain it in. And when this guy's dead, that's your main job. You should be 100% focused on chaining frogs in. If this mini boss is dead, that's kind of your main thing, is chain the frogs in, get them in close to the group so they can get killed.
And there's a part of that where you can't block it. You have to dodge roll a heavy attack. Is that right?
On
From
this
the
boss?
mini boss? Yeah, from the mini boss, there's something you can't block. You have to dodge roll out of it.
Not on regular VED. I don't know about hard mode. I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Main thing here, I mean, what people generally die to is, one, they're either standing in a poison circle that drop, from the frogs, and they're just not aware of it, or they're taking a meteor. And so a lot of people just get tunnel focused on just doing their parse, and they're not paying much attention to the damage happening around them. All right, any other questions on VRG? Do you want to see VRG bossing? How about VSC?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about VSC. Whoops. VSC. Okay, I'll show you two perspectives. One is from main tank. Here for the first boss, I think this can be a somewhat challenging fight for the main tank. And the main reason is the boss will put a healing debuff on you called Hindered, so you can't heal yourself. And on top of that, they do a severe bleed damage on you. And without help, it's even on just regular vet, it's extremely hard to stay alive. So I find it helpful to have a healer assigned to keep their eye on the main tank and to burst heal as necessary to get them through it. Because the fight falls apart pretty quickly if the main tank is down for any significant period of time. So besides that, so having said that, and that's just more of a healer thing than anything else, is the fire bombs. You can see the firebomb timer, which is an add-on, is significantly or is prominently in the center of the screen, because that's one thing that this tank needs to pay attention to, is when firebombs come out. They come out every 24 seconds. It's a countdown timer. So you can see when I turn this on, it counts down. And then what I did is I immediately, as a main tank, and I'm on a Sork tank, is I kited away, because I want to get the firebombs tossed into the corner. So you can see I'm backing up. So now I'm completely out of the firebombs. And when the boss comes over, it also gives the team a place to stand without having to negotiate their way around the firebombs. So here I have kind of a taunting issue, trying to get the cost. Here we go. So I'm just getting away, having her come over. Because that was a bad mistake as a tank. So see, one thing you don't want to do in this fight is turn the boss towards the group, because when the fire bombs get thrown out, she will throw them to anybody she sees. So what you want to do as a main tank is always keep the boss faced away from the group, especially when fire bombs go out, because fire bombs will get tossed on top of the group. So that was just kind of bad positioning. Okay, firebomb's coming out in 5 seconds. It's counting down. So I'm getting ready to teleport to the other side. I'm kiting those firebombs over in the corner.
What's your ulti on that?
Warhorn. And it's time. It's the time reverse thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now the other perspective is the off-tank perspective. So let me take a look at that. Do I have that? VSC, here we go. No more damage on boss. Okay, so here, main thing for the off tank is keeping the you can see that right now while no more damage on boss portal phase. Here, let me give you a. So during, like, this is portal phase, what I'm doing is I'm trying to taunt all of the archers and get them grouped up so they can be bashed. You're just bashing archers. Okay, we got one more archer to get down. Okay, we're back on boss. Get everyone get back a little bit. Everyone off boss, kill all archers. Okay, so here, the main job of off-tank for Yasela is to keep the Wamasu taunted and chain all of the archers in so they can be killed quickly. So you'll see me chain these guys in. And you want to keep, obviously, the colonel attack away from group. Charge. Okay, back on boss.
Pillar by door.
We have one more over by the exit side as well. Okay, portal phase is coming up. Everyone off boss, stand by for portals, just come to the center of the room. Okay, so again, portal phase is happening. Okay, portal's coming out. So as the off tank, there's not much to taunt because these archers can't be taunted. Or they can be taunted, but you can't chain them. So what you need to do as the off tank is you range taunt them and you run across the opposite direction to get them to move into and try and kind of stack them into a general location. So here I'm trying to get them into the middle of the room. So I'm just going to run to the opposite side. You can start to see them move towards the middle. So at least now they're a lot more easier to control. Okay, one more portal on exit right. Someone needs to get in there. I'm here. Do not DPS block. Okay, somebody pushed us in. You're starting to piss me off. Do not damage boss, guys, when burn during portals. Kill all archers, guys, quickly. Do not DPS the boss right now. Okay, so that's the Yaz fight. Any other questions on kind of the tanking those?
What's the difference between normal and vet on that fight?
It's absolutely the same. It's just that things die much quicker, and so you can, and the mechanics don't hurt as much. So, but everything.
Because I looked at it, and it's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's pretty much that's true of almost every trial. Yeah, because things die quicker, you can skip over and not pay as close attention to the mechanics. Let's see, I'm just going to go through my list of what I've got. Vaz +2. Does anybody have questions on taking that? Or want to see that one? Or what about VDSR Twins?
Love to see either one of those.
Okay, let's do VDSR Twins. That one is seems to be a learning curve for a lot of tanks on that particular trial. So why don't we go through that? The first part's pretty straightforward, right? It's you kill these hounds and then the boss comes down. The main thing for off tank, which is the off tank perspective, is you're not only helping to you're helping to debuff, but and it looks like I'm on PA, so I'm doing PA procs, and then I'm trying to get this Atro. So what I'm doing spinning around is I am looking for the Atro as the off tank because I want to get him into group as quickly as possible, but ideally you want to position him on the opposite side of the circle from where the boss is. So you can see the main boss is usually on the 12 o'clock of the circle, so I want to position the Atros on the 6 o'clock. So I call out to the team, okay, the Atro's coming from front right, so they know, okay, it's coming in. Okay, he called for a boss swap immediately. So as soon as it comes into the circle, I'm just going to go ahead and grab the main boss, and he's going to grab the Atro. Okay, so we just switched. Another important thing here is you want to keep the main boss in the bubble, because if it could start channeling, and it cannot be interrupted without being in the bubble. So now it's in the bubble. Don't move the dome. See, somebody's moved the dome. They shouldn't be doing that. Okay, so they immediately went into teleport phase. So they pushed the boss too fast. They ideally you want to kill the Atro before you go into teleport. So let's see how it goes. Okay, Atro's dead. Okay, same thing here. Off tank is debuffing, providing PA, and I'm looking for the atro. There it is, back left. No, that was a dog. Okay, here we go. It's front right again. Okay, so he got the imminent blister right away. So let me go back to, did you guys see that? So that's the main tank. Main tank has imminent fragility coming in. So he has 10 seconds to execute a boss swap. Otherwise being susceptible to a one shot. So we got to do a boss swap here pretty quick. So I'm going to get the atro into the bubble, and then we're going to swap. 3, 2, 1.
What side did I say you were going on?
Yeah, I'm going right. Okay, so now they still have an atro up, which is not a good thing. But now we're doing the split, so we're now into the split phase of the fight. That atro, since it's a fire atro, should go to the ice side. So I don't know why it's coming over to me. Maybe I taunted it. Don't know. Okay, so I'm grabbing my boss, bringing it over. Now positioning here is important. One, the bubble holder should cover the corners of this platform entirely and keep the bubble relatively still, because the tanks are going to start getting this, we call them puddles, but they're like flame circles on the ground, flame or ice circles, and you can't stand on them for very long without dying. So, but you don't want to position them in the middle of the platform. You want to position them around the edges.
I actually just took a absolute fuckload of damage from... That's incredible.
Okay, boss swap. Okay, so imminent chill's coming out, so we have 10 seconds to do a boss swap. So I just called for a boss swap. And I just did a countdown. I'm going 3, 2, 1, and I'm saying when I'm going to taunt that guy. Okay, there's the taunt right there. Okay, now again, I don't know when the bubbles are happening. What I'm doing is positioning myself to the far edge of the platform in case the puddles start happening. I can position those puddles correctly. Slow down, Lionar. He's way too far ahead.
Did we move over or just?
Yeah, come over here. This
Okay, you can see I'm dropping him along the edge.
and then go do Mylinar after.
Boss swap. 3,
Swap.
2, 1. So again, I called for boss swap, count 3, 2, 1, and then taunt. Okay, they're even now.
Just kill the assault.
Alright, yep, dropping dots all over the place. That's a pretty bad situation. All those puddles were badly placed, but there was already some leftover ones there, but sometimes that happens.
Everybody over here.
Okay. Any questions on tanking that? Is that helpful?
Yeah, that was very helpful.
This team had pretty good DPS, so things were going down really fast relative to like a training trial. Okay, we said VAS +2. You guys want to see that one?
Yes, please.
No.
Too many nightmares. This one is, I think, honestly, this is probably one of the easiest trials to tank among vet hard modes. It's you can almost pretty much be brain dead. That's why people that main tank this don't get a whole lot of respect, because it's pretty easy. 3, 2. So here we start off, obviously just taunting it and positioning this boss. So we want it. Okay, starts right onto a steam. So just need to get them angled. There we go. So there's a couple of things this guy does that can kill you. One is it does these swipes. The swipes do a huge amount of damage. And you have two options to deal with the swipes. One is you can roll dodge them, which is totally, it's actually the way I used to do it, and it's probably the easiest way to do it in a non-shield type tank. So if you're a Sork, and I would also put in this a Arcanist tank, you have really big shields that can soak up that damage. So you probably, if you're running a Sork or an Arcanist, you could just get away with running shields and blocking. If you're not, you'll need to do a lot of healing, or you could roll dodge, which means you don't have to take any damage at all, but you do have to time the roll dodge pretty well, which is whenever this boss raises its arm, that's the time to roll dodge. But here, since I'm a Sork, I'm just going to soak it up. Okay, he's going for the jump, so tanks need to hide as well. Okay, Kite. So as main tank, I do sort of a circular pattern. Swipe again. The other thing to watch out for is steam. So he will always do steam in the direction that he's faced when you get the warning. So, and this is the thing that the tank healer needs to watch out for, is they should definitely have this add-on running so they know when steam is coming, so they know to get out of the way. Best thing to do with steam is you roll dodge into the boss off at an angle. So you'll either roll dodge left or right. If you don't have stam enough to roll dodge, then you just want to run off into the boss at an angle. Okay. So again, I'm just going to do my little circle pattern.
Just have to bring them across. Perfect. Jumps in 3% guide. There's Protector, exit front. On land, we'll do Ace and Aurora really quickly.
What's that last item on your bar? The one on the far, the fifth skill?
This minor protection,
Where's that
or
from?
excuse me, major protection. It's I can't remember it's from the support skill line for Alliance War.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it gives you a 10% damage mitigation. Oops.
Do we get the interrupt?
Let's see. Oh, did I lose it?
Sorry.
On tank. If you see a exit front,
But this is pretty repetitive at this point. So it's basically either roll dodge, swipes, or block, depending on
Aurora extend.
how good your shields are. And then, you've got a Kite just like everybody else when he does the that mechanic. And then other than that, it's avoid steam, keep the boss faced away from the group, and do your buffing, debuffing. But it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's
We have a minute now.
not that hard.
2%, right on track. Hit high main.
Thank you.
Sure. Other trials? VMAL, Twins? Does anybody have questions on tanking that?
How about someday on the types of tanks? You know, the pros and cons, and what do you do with each of the kinds of tanks? These sword
I
versus
think it
cave.
depends on, so I think it's probably agreed by most people that the easiest one to learn how to tank on is DK. Yeah, it's probably the easiest one to tank with all around. But some trials, particularly is start getting into the hard modes, and your raid leader will want to start to optimize the makeup of the team. Will probably want a necro and or a sork tank or some other class besides 2 DKs. So necros are pretty effective. They have a class ability to mitigate damage over time, which is really nice. So I think they're like class that has that, which is a great benefit. The only thing that necros don't have is they don't have a burst heal, so you may need to supplement the heals you have, which is generally your scythe with vigor, the green vigor skill. But sork tanks are really good. They're kind of in vogue right now. I used to back in the day do quite a bit of Nightblade tanking, but that kind of fell by the wayside. Actually ended up deleting it.
I love my little Nightblade tank.
But I am learning and getting better at tanking on my Arcanist. But I actually led a VSC today and tried kiting the frost or the fire bombs on it, and it was a complete fail. I kind of embarrassed myself. I was like, yeah, I've got some learning to do. I found that I was losing stam super quick, and it was kind of hindering my ability to do a good job.
What do you do to practice tanking when you're not in a trial? Like I'll go around and I'll just
Run, yeah.
taunt world bosses and stuff.
I would run like your vet dungeons, like the Undaunted dailies, the daily dungeons. Just run those on vet. Usually it shouldn't be a problem finding a pickup team. Or look in Group Finder for a trial to get into, a vet trial. I will say doing anything on normal as a tank is probably counterproductive. You'll actually probably pick up more bad habits than learning anything about tanking. So I would discourage trying to learn anything doing normal tanking.
I go to elsewhere and I fight dragons by myself. Stay alive.
Yeah, if you're practicing staying alive, definitely.
But I mean, it doesn't work with, it doesn't help.
Damn, cheese, I wouldn't do that.
It's kind of fun, actually. But it doesn't teach me any of the mechanics or, just helps me learn how to stay alive.
Yeah, well, I think it's super important for the tanks to, like, learn the mechanic, understand, like, do the research, watch a video, read the guide or whatever it takes. But it's super helpful, particularly as a tank, if you know, like, what to expect going into the situation. Like, okay, what are the mechanics? What is the boss going to throw at me, and how do I handle it? Because kind of going in blind, you'll find it's kind of rough.
Yeah.
Any other questions on specific trials that you want to talk about? Just looking through my list. VRG, VSC, VDSR, VLC. What about VLC? Any questions on?
That's actually pretty cut and dried, even
Okay.
though it's a hard trial. But yeah. At least to me.
All right. Well, I'll just kind of leave it open for any questions, comments. Here to answer questions. Try and be helpful.
I think this was great.
Okay. Well, I have recorded this session. I'll be posting it up. So if you want to rewatch it, feel free to do that. Yeah, if you have any questions that come up, feel free to grab me. Happy to join a voice conversation or trade messages with you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Was this on a
it's way-
schedule? Because I just got a notice like at the last minute.
Yeah, I think Josine put it up about a week ago.
Huh.
Just posted in the rookie chat and general chat channel. And then she was going to repost about it this morning, but forgot until I told her, hey, I'm going to be starting pretty soon. She's like, oh, I totally forgot.
It was more informative than I thought it would be. It's awesome.
Okay, good. All right, guys, we'll call it and leave it there. So, guess I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you again, Jaime.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Have a good night.